Welcome to the Legal Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Jolene, and with the Legal Learning Center, I help pre-law students and law students with their legal journey. Today, as part 2 of our Leaving the Law series, we will hear from Denise. Denise was a practicing attorney for 8 years before she left the practice of law to become an event production coordinator. Stay tuned to find out why someone would spend so much time, effort, and money to become an attorney just to walk away. At the end, you'll hear my top takeaways from this chat. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Financially Free Aspiring Attorneys is a course with over $300,000 in money-saving tips. So if you want to go to law school but don't want to pay for it, this course is right for you. Visit legallearningcenter.com/financially-free for more information. All right, let's get into the call.
Hello, my name is Denise, and I am currently an event production coordinator at a major studio here in Los Angeles, California.
Okay, and so you are still legally licensed as an attorney, right?
I am.
Okay, so when did you first, as a youngster, decide that law might be right for you?
I actually decided really early on. I was somewhere in middle school, about 13 years old, give or take. And in all honesty, I don't know exactly what it was. It was a little bit of like TV influence and parental influence, but I thought, being a lawyer sounded really cool. And my mom said I was pretty good at debating and arguing things, most likely in a joke, but I took it to heart. And starting in high school, I started to be very focused on going to law school and becoming a lawyer.
And that was actually going to be my next question is, did you feel like there were outside influences like your parents that kind of pushed you along that path?
So I don't know that I actually don't think that there were a lot of outside influences pushing me, but there were influences that I took in, and I feel very much like that was a decision I made early on, and people absolutely supported me. But I didn't have like parental pressure to do it. My mom was very open to me doing anything, but I was pretty headstrong as a kid. So she was like, okay, if this is what you're doing, then I'll get behind it.
And so what was your family background as far as like, were you the first to go to college or what was that like?
Sure, yeah. So I was not. I have an older brother and an older sister. They both went to college. My brother majored in business. My sister majored in fashion.
Okay.
So really, yeah, we're all a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
But I'm the baby. I'm the baby by many years. And so even though I had great influences around me, both of my siblings, they were much older than me. They're 10 plus years older than me.
Okay.
So it was very much kind of like a only child existence.
Now, did you know before you went into law school what area of law you want to do?
No, I had no idea what area of law I wanted to pursue, and I would say I didn't fully appreciate the breadth of areas that you could go into, or like the different ways that you could go into law. Going through high school and into college, I worked quite a bit in law firms. So I did have some experience in certain like small areas, but I didn't really have a clue.
So what did you do in law school to try to figure out what you want to do?
Survived. Survived in law school. I did think by the time I got to by the time I got to law school, I did think I wanted to pursue like more criminal type of defense or prosecutorial work. So I worked, I tried to get internships or, summer program work opportunities to work in different firms or different areas of things that I thought, I might want to do. And they were super invaluable because they showed me what I did not want very quickly.
What did you do with your summers?
So for my first summer, I worked here in Los Angeles at the CCB with a criminal defense attorney for the state, and it was amazing and wonderful experience. I learned so much and gained a lot of insight, but it was heartbreaking and really challenging. So I decided it was very helpful in helping me to decide to not go into criminal law. And then my second summer was just with a civil firm. It wasn't really anything super memorable. In all honesty, I kind of barely remember it, but it was the most comfortable for me at the time, and it was a good job. So I went with it.
And did you do any externships while you were in school?
I did. I did. I worked in a lot of different places in a lot of different ways, but I spent some time in Germany. I did like an overseas program
During the school year?
During the school year.
Wow.
And it was really, really cool. But it was mostly, admittedly, it was more school than work, but they had like a small internship type of program with it. It was cool.
That's really cool. Yeah. And so did you take any classes that you felt like helped geared you towards your future career?
No.
Okay. So just anything and everything.
I did. Admittedly, so I went to Pepperdine, and they did start to have, when I was in law school, they had just started introducing some like employment law and workers' compensation type of classes, which at the time weren't super common. And so that is ultimately kind of the gear I ended up going into. But I only took like one of those classes. And I took a lot of estate planning classes, a lot of property type of courses. That was definitely the field that I liked the most in law school and did the best in. But that was another field that I didn't end up going into because family law is really challenging. And I didn't want to, I struggled with kind of like having to navigate the family aspects of a lot of that kind of stuff. So not that that's all a state law is, of course, but it just didn't end up working that way for me.
Yeah. Okay. So what year did you graduate?
Gosh, I don't know. I almost said a year that's not true. I graduated in law school in 2008.
Okay.
Yes, in 2008. Oh my God.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. And what type of firm did you work for first? What type of law?
The first law firm that I really worked for was just civil, and they did some personal injury and some property.
And how long were you there?
About a year. And that was because in 2008, when I graduated, it was the year of the crash. They kind of had to like pull back. They didn't really go under, but they had to pull back a significant amount.
Okay, so after your first job, where did you end up?
So after the first job, I actually, it's kind of a cool story. So I was having coffee with a friend. We were in like a little cafe, and I was essentially complaining about law school and how it doesn't prepare you for anything, and feeling frustrated because I kind of had already knew what I knew, and I felt like I wasn't really being exposed to other things that I wanted to know. And this woman happened to be in the cafe, and she owned her own firm, and she did workers' comp. And she overheard me, and we ended up talking, and her firm was closed. And so we ended up negotiating a part-time job with her firm. And from there, I got into comp.
Wow. Okay. So that was around what, 2009?
That was in 2009.
Okay. And so how long did you work for her?
So I ended up working for her for about 2 years.
Okay.
And then as her firm was growing, she decided to go more into like plaintiff side work, and I liked defense side work. And I got an amazing opportunity at a larger firm and took it.
Okay. And how long were you at the larger firm?
I was there for about 2 years.
Okay. So 2010 to 12-ish?
Yep, something like that.
Okay. So all work comp defense?
All work comp defense.
Okay. And after that, where did you end up?
I ended up in-house.
Okay.
I ended up in-house at a large insurance company.
And how long were you there?
That's an excellent question. Almost 4 years.
All right. And was that also work comp defense?
That was all work comp defense.
Okay. And then what about after that?
And then after that, I went to my last firm. I transitioned out of in-house back to private practice, but it was still work comp defense.
Mm-hmm.
But I only spent about a year, not even a whole year there.
Now, at what point in this like journey did you start to realize that this doesn't sound so good anymore? I mean, I know you had that cafe talk, but after that.
No, so it was actually working in the in-house firm.
Okay.
So the in-house firm was awesome. I grew a ton. It felt like I had reached kind of like a good place to like grow and like mature into my career. And at that point, you know, I was like 4 years in when I was starting there. And so, you know, it was just a great environment. I got to work with all of these amazing attorneys who had been practicing comp for years and years, right? Like 10 and 15 and 20 years at that point. So I had this great experience around me. And what started happening over the years of being in this firm is that I started to really notice like the type of attorneys who were flourishing, who were who had a groove and a rhythm. There was definitely like a rhythm to practicing. And it highlighted that I did not have this rhythm for me. And so I felt like I was a good attorney. I knew how to do stuff. I'm a smart person, all of that great stuff. But for me, practicing law was very, it felt very like hamster wheelish, frankly. It took all of my energy, all of the time to be who I wanted to be for my clients and for, you know, my firm. And so, you know, you can do that. You can push yourself. You can run. I mean, I think any person who goes into the law knows that, right? It's like you just do what you got to do, you know, and you grind it out. And so that's what I was doing. I was nose to the ground and it was grinding it out, but it wears you out.
Yeah.
And this large firm, this in-house firm, was the first time I'd really seen other attorneys who didn't have to do that to be successful. I could see the distinction of people who really had found a rhythm and a flow. It wasn't that it was easy for them by any means, but there was some like ebb and flow and peace to it for them in a way I did not have.
Gotcha.
So that's when it started to change for me.
Okay. So yeah, so then there's the mindset of I'm not like that person.
Right.
I can do my job my way, but this is exhausting.
Yes.
What can I do besides this?
Yeah.
Okay. So that last firm, was that kind of your last chance? You're like, I'm going to really try and make this work one more time. Is that what was going on there?
Yeah. So admittedly, there was some just like personal. I had a loss in my family. I had a death in my family that kind of started throwing me off. By the last year I was in this larger firm, I was already feeling like very burned out. And like, I don't know if I can kind of keep doing this. And then that kind of compounded with the personal stuff. And I just was like, I think, yeah, it was maybe a last ditch effort. And it was like, maybe if I kind of like change my environment and, you know, kind of transition back out of the in-house and kind of go back to something private. I don't know. I did. I guess it was the death gasp of trying to hold on to something that I really needed to let go.
Yeah. So, okay. So what was this, like 2014 that you left?
2016.
2016.
So it must have been 2015. 2016, I think, is when I left the firm. Okay. The in-house firm to go to the new firm.
Okay. And so you've been at your current position ever since, after you left work comp?
No. So I stopped practicing in 2017.
Okay.
I officially stopped practicing in 2017, and I then transitioned. I fell back on some contract work because I do still have my degree. So I fell back on some contract work while I explored just a completely different field, and that was event planning. And so I really started from scratch. I didn't even know anyone in event planning. And so it started with reaching out to my friends to ask them if they knew people in event planning, and in informational interviews. And I took an internship at one point and worked a little bit for free for about a month, and then landed the job that I'm currently in.
Wow. Okay. So first of all, I have a lot of questions about this too. So are there aspects from law school that you use in your current job?
Absolutely.
Like
yes.
that?
So ironically enough, in my current job, we deal with contracts quite a bit. And so I have become the unofficial contract reviewer for all of our vendor and hospitality contracts and that kind of thing. I work with our legal department at the studio quite a bit to negotiate those things. So that's a very practical application.
Yeah.
I think my skill set of just being able to kind of discern and read and negotiate with people has really come into play as well. Again, I'm in events a lot. All I do is deal with vendors all day and clients, and it's all about negotiating. It's like, what do you want? For how much do you want to spend? How do we make this happen? How do I get what I need to get and give you what you need to get? It's all about, building relationship, serving your client, negotiating to get to the end, of what you need. And that's, all of that is what I did every day as a lawyer.
Yeah. So now, what's the difference as far as that ebb and flow that you were talking about, the rhythm you didn't have? What's the difference with this job?
Yeah, so there is ebb and flow with this job for me that I just didn't have. For my law career, it was like, I'm a hamster. I get up every day, I get on the wheel, I run until I pass out, and then I roll off my wheel, I sleep, and I do it again. And I quite literally felt like that's what I was doing 6 days a week, 15 hours a day by the time it was over. I feel like that's all I did. And, the money was great, but, I couldn't sleep right. I didn't eat well. I didn't spend time with people that I enjoyed being around. And with this job, it's not that. We get really busy. We do really big programs. I travel a lot more now than I ever did. And even with all of that said, there are ebbs and flows. Once an event is over, it's over. And we're always planning ahead. So there's always something to do, but it's like, I get to go home. I get to have somewhat of a normal day. And I have my weekends to spend with my, my family and my friends. And there's I don't feel like I have to be on 24 hours a day.
Now, was this a difficult decision as far as, I'm assuming you have law loans. Is that correct? Okay.
I have a lot of them. I have a mortgage. Law loan.
Yeah. So, was that part of either what kept you in law longer, or did it make it difficult to leave law?
Yeah. It's funny. When I was in college and I worked a lot in law firms in college. And I remember I worked for a large firm for many years, and there would always be this gap, right? In the between 4 and 6 years, there was always the fewest attorney in the firm that were 4 to 6 year attorneys. Because after that 4 or 5 year mark, people would start to burn out really bad and drop out. And the thing that would keep them was the law loan, right? It's like, this is a lot of money, and you make good money many times if you're lucky. And so people they feel trapped by it. And then it's like, you have a family and there's bills and all of those things that come with it. And so for me to say it was not a consideration is a lie. It would just be a flat out lie.
Yeah.
And I still don't own my own home for a reason, I think. Mm-hmm. But it was killing me. And so it really did get to a point where, the money definitely was a factor. It felt like, am I going to be able to, live, or what am I going to do? What other kind of job can I, get and stuff? And, but I had to get out, and I'm grateful for my law degree. Even getting out, I was able to fall back on it to do contract work. which really did allow me to like still have a livable wage, while I kind of try to figure out something else, right? And it even allowed me, because I was still able to I made almost as much money on contract as I did when I was with a firm.
Wow.
It was amazing. But I was also able to then essentially not work for an entire month and intern for this other company to career transition. And I wouldn't have been able to do that without my law degree. So, I make quite literally half of what I used to make now, but I come home. So
there's definitely a trade-off there.
That's the trade-off.
And did you have a big plan when you left? Or, I mean, like, did you take 6 months to like save up or something? Or did you just say, you know what, this is just it, I'm out of here?
I left. I just left. It was all bad. And I left before it got to a point where it was like, I'm just going to be irresponsible here, or I'm going to get fired or something, right? Before it kind of like really took a dive. But I'd already felt like I wasn't being the attorney I needed to be. Like I was already feeling like, okay, I'm not responding to people the way I should be. I'm not upholding the standards that I would have expected any attorney to uphold. And at that point, I was getting away with it still, like it wasn't so visible that there was any real,
real problems. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There were no real problems, and I wanted to go out before there were.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it honestly, it had gotten to a point where I just couldn't anymore. I think I had gotten on that hamster wheel as much as I could until my body, my brain, everything just wouldn't anymore.
Yeah.
And so I would love to say like, oh yeah, I had this really great responsible plan, right? Where I saw this early and I was able to get ahead of it and like put all these pieces together. And that's not what happened. I burned out. That's what happened. And I saved, my firm and my skin, I think probably by about 6 months or something by getting out when I did. That's the truth.
Now, is there anything, if you look back, like high school or somewhere along the line, college, that you feel like there were hints that maybe you should have stopped?
It's hard. I definitely think in hindsight, I'm a little older, a little wiser. I think in hindsight, there wasn't anything that would have stopped me from this path.
Right.
But I wish there had been. I wish that as I'm sure, we're all, if you go into law, for the most part, you've got to be a type A kind of personality who just like, grind. Like that's how you end up in this profession, right? So there is this aspect of like, you do what you want to do. And that's who I was. It was really, really hard for anyone to say anything else to me. But admittedly, no one was trying either.
Right.
I think people just kind of took it for what it was. It was, I said I wanted to be a lawyer, and people just said, okay, sounds good. This is how you become a lawyer. And no one ever really ever considered saying like, would you consider something else? Like, I don't even think anyone even broached it for me to say no to that.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, like, once I got out of law and stuff, I do wonder, like, had I bothered to ask anyone? Had I bothered to like ask my counselors or like the people, around me? I didn't have a lawyer in my family. I didn't know lawyers. I didn't know anyone to like talk to them about it. And it makes me wonder, like, had I bothered to do like the investigative informational interviewing that I did for my current position or my current career, if I would have really pursued it, I wonder.
Yeah. No, I completely understand that. All right. Well, thank you, Denise. I loved everything you said. It was so helpful and insightful, and I definitely hope the pre-law students take it to heart. If there's somebody that wants to reach out to you directly, is there a way they can do that?
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm totally happy to talk to anybody about any of my experience, good and bad, because it can be an amazing experience to be an attorney. And I think that there's plenty of people who really embrace it and run with it. But I also think it's really hard for some people to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
And so I would love to, be able to encourage anyone who's like not sure on, about it to talk about it. So it's probably easiest to reach me by email.
Okay.
And my email address is really just my full name. So it's Denise D. Jacques, and that's DENISE D JACQUES as in Sam, Denise D. Jacques at AOL.com.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right. As an attorney, I really identified with what Denise said. Her experience is a perfect segue to discuss our sponsor, Juno. If you need to take out student loans, check in with Juno first. Juno can oftentimes save students 1% to 2% over their direct loans. At no cost to the student, they can also avoid origination fees and oftentimes get students cash back. Even if it's just for a refi, Juno can save you thousands. Visit joinjuno.com/P like podcast/legal learning center to sign up today. All right, all tips, links, and so forth are going to be in the show notes. There's a full transcript of this podcast as well. But for now, let's get into my top takeaways. All right, so first of all, if you recall, she said that many attorneys reach a burnout phase around 4 to 5 years into the practice of law, but their law loans kept them there. The lesson I take away from that is that if you want mobility, either the ability to change jobs, change area of law, or just leave law, you need to avoid law loans as much as possible. Number 2, Denise stated that she felt like a hamster in a wheel and she couldn't catch her rhythm. Law is a lot of deadlines, it can be fast-paced, and everything is important. You can get that feeling that you are behind all the time. You feel like you just can't ever quite do enough. And when you look at others, they either have a rhythm or they look like they have one. Either way, it doesn't make you feel any better when you don't have that rhythm. The problem is some attorneys have a rhythm and then they lose it. That's burnout. Now, number 3, she is using her degree, so that's reassuring. It hasn't gone to waste. It's nice to know that at the end of the day, she was able to do something with her education. It's definitely an expensive route to go, but in the end, she's learned a lot, benefited, and she's in a good place. That's it for this episode. Be sure to check in next week to hear Dan's story. Dan left law after only 3 years. And while his story has a lot of twists and turns, it's actually not uncommon. If you learned something today, please like, share, and subscribe so that the show is more visible to others and can help those who need it. Thanks.